For ambitious dads caught between work and home, this is where you find your footing. Here's your host, Jeff Hittner.
Welcome to the Ambitious Dads Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hittner. After more than 200 conversations with fathers, I realized we're not talking enough. Not about our fears, our ambitions, how our kids are really doing, or how we're holding up in the middle of all of it. This podcast is for the dads trying to build something meaningful and be present at home. The ones carrying a lot, questioning if they're doing enough, and craving honest conversations without the filters. If that's you, you're not alone. You're in the right place. Let's figure this out together. And today we have a very special guest, Tony Berardo. Tony has a 2.5-year-old little girl and is a full-time content creator and podcaster himself, developing really high-quality videos for brands and creators. And I'm really excited to have you here. Welcome.
Oh, the pleasure's mine, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. So what's keeping you up right now as a dad? Like when you don't have 50 other things going through your head and you're just thinking about the fatherhood side of things, like what is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, specifically right now, we can get a little bit more detail, but I think it's irrelevant because A, you asked me, but B, it just happened a few days ago. My wife just got laid off. So that's fun. So that's kind of weighing on me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and it's more one of those things where I think we're all faced with these challenges, but she was with the company for 10 years and the big multi-billion-dollar company, and she did nothing wrong. They're just laying off hundreds of people just this month. So, I think that's kind of one of the challenges that I think we'll get into a little bit where as an entrepreneur and as someone who works for themselves, essentially you're on commission 100% of the time, no salary, no health benefits. And, thankfully I make enough money to support us both, but we had stability over there. And I think this just goes to show it just solidifies my quote unquote stick-ativity of being an entrepreneur. Mainly because nothing is guaranteed. Even if you're at a big corporation like where she was at, where she thought she was going to retire and now she just got laid off for no reason. So, I know I'm not going to lay myself off. So as long as I just keep up the grind and keep doing what I'm doing, we're just going to be just fine. So that type of stuff I think always weighs in. But to answer your question, that's the hardest part because, we talked about it before you started recording. But, we are entrepreneurs and we work for ourselves because we want to be at home with our kid. But also, they don't really talk about this a lot when you are an entrepreneur with a kid. There's obviously more stress, but there's just that mental struggle of, I want to work hard and support the family, but I also just want to be with my kid. So like, that's the struggle of if I have a podcast or if I have a conference call, or if I have to make some videos for a brand, I'd rather be sitting on the floor with mag tiles. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But we're always fighting us dads that like, but we're the provider and we got to work 3 jobs and make 6 figures and we got to be the man. And I think that's the mental struggle that I and maybe a lot of dads out there are dealing with.
Yeah, that's like the when to turn it off, right? Especially when your home is your office, but then you've got this whole thing that your office revolves around, which is this little daughter that you want to spend every moment with. That is a big challenge. And what I also hear you saying too, or I'm imagining, so correct me if I'm wrong, your wife gets laid off. It may not have an immediate financial impact, but it adds weight. Right?
Oh,
like
sure.
those shoulders just got a lot heavier. And it may not just be heavier from the provision standpoint, but now it's like, or you tell me, now you've got one daughter who you're trying to like manage emotionally, and now you have a whole new emotional challenge in the household as well. Right?
Yeah. And if I had a boy, it might be different, but 2 girls with high emotions, that's a problem. So
Well, I hope you have emotions too, but
I think a lot of men try to suppress that. Unfortunately, that's like a unconscious trigger that we do. We just, when something like this goes down, I think we put up a wall. At least I do. We put up a wall and we try to be tough and strong for everybody, but mentally we're struggling. Which is why, not to get too deep, but I think it's close to 70 or 80% of suicides are from men. And that's typically because we don't like to talk about things. It's too late, but before we figure it out. So that's one thing I'm always really conscious and aware of, especially with situations like this where, yeah, I do need to check myself and know that I'm not like a brick wall, that me and my wife need to have conversations and we need to be open with each other. I need to be maybe more emotional than her because sometimes there's things that I'm thinking about and maybe I'm struggling with mentally, but I don't want to say it because I'm like, well, she's dealing with a lot, so I don't want to bother her with it. That's the
Where
wrong
do you
mindset.
think where
That's
do
the
you
wrong
think that
mentality.
assumption comes from?
I can only speak from experience. I think it's just instinctual. It's in our DNA as men, right? We're the hunters. And, we don't need you. Stay here at the cave. We're going to go hunt and we'll fight off the saber-toothed tiger. Like it's just in our DNA and we just got to break free from it, And
Yeah, because has that been your experience? Like when you do unload what's on your mind, what's troubling you, like how does that play out typically with your wife?
yeah, well now, we've been together over 10 years. So I think now, like most married couples, we know each other's triggers and what to say and what
Mhm.
not to say. So I think now we're at a good place where if something's bothering me, I know that I can talk to her and she'll be very supportive and vice versa with her. So I think there's a little bit of that, just knowing each other and knowing our triggers, and knowing when to talk and when to shut up, because I think that's a big thing too, right? Again, now we're at the point where we can have these conversations, and I'm very like logical, sometimes too stoic and too objective from what she tells me. But like figuring out a plan, whether that's like a sleep schedule for our daughter or, who's going to take this shift, who's going to take that shift, looking for a job for her, when is she supposed to do X, Y, Z, like a plan for everything. And I think that's one of our biggest strengths is we really like to plan things out and sit down. And instead of scrolling on TikTok or watching a Netflix series for 3 hours, we plan. It's just one of the things that we've gotten really good at over the years. It took us a while to kind of figure out how to do that, and it's forever changing. But I think that's the one thing that is going to help us get through this tough time is figuring out a plan and not just winging shit.
Yeah, and then there's also that fine balance, right? I always love the Mike Tyson quote, "Everyone has a plan until I punch him in the nose," right? So, in fact, this is the hardest moment, and the reason why I'm happy to dive into, and I really appreciate you being honest about this experience is, over 70% of U.S. families are living paycheck to paycheck. So one job loss and like everything changes, everything tumbles. Now you're not necessarily in that category, but walking
Yeah.
through the emotional walking through the emotional process of this is really important for everyone to hear and understand. And the thing about people that are great planners is that when this moment comes that is unplanned, it creates a lot more like agita, a lot more challenge, right? At an
For sure.
emotional level for you, for her.
Yeah.
And once again, this is like these emotions are coming around the thing that you care most about, which is your family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, one of the things I heard you say was this idea of like, we'll create a plan, we'll solve for it. One of the things I experienced when as an entrepreneur, like my salary year to year it's like a roller coaster, right? And
Sure.
so, oftentimes what I look for in my wife is not a solution, but just like an empathetic ear. Like, yeah, this year is different. Like,
Yeah.
I hear you, right? And how have you learned to know when to like just listen versus to come in with a plan? Like right now, are you in the listening phase? Are you in or like, are you already, is your head going, okay, I got a plan for this? Or are you giving yourself space to be like, maybe we should kind of sit with this for a little bit first?
It's a good question. Yeah. After being married, over 10 years and having a 2.5-year-old, having two girls in the house, I've learned a lot of things from both of them. And the one thing I've learned is if I want to say something, specifically say something to my wife, I'm going to go to the other room where she's not in and say it out loud and see if it makes sense.
I love it. I love it. Do you know
Because more often than not,
yeah,
I end up saying, I probably should wait to say that. So
man,
I
that's
think,
a great,
yeah.
great strategy. Yeah.
So that's step one. And so I did that for like the first 3-4 days that she got laid off. And I said, hey, do you need me for anything? And the one thing that I think has helped me just kind of control my emotions, because again, I'm very logical and stoic, and that's my biggest probably issue that I have. We all have our demons, but that's my biggest thing is sometimes I don't have a lot of emotion. Sometimes I always if something goes down, I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how to fix it. A lot of men, I think, are like that, and that is like our biggest flaw, dude. Mm-hmm. I'm at the point now where the first couple of days, I'm like, hey, everything's going to be cool. We'll figure this out. Don't sweat it. It's all good. And then like by day 3 or 4, I go up to her and I say, hey, is there anything I could do? Yeah. And more often than not, she's going to say, no, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And usually if you ask that type of question, is there anything I can do? They're probably going to do the same thing that you want them to do. But now instead of you telling them what they should do, they're telling you what they're going to do. And now everyone's happy. So usually it takes me about a week. If nothing gets done the way we discussed that it was going to get done, then I'm like, hey, babe, you said you were going to do this. I know you're struggling. Let me help. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. You do X, Y, Z, and we'll get through this together. So I think that's where I'm at now is we're a week in. She's doing great. She's looking for jobs, and I'm putting out feelers that I can as well. And, we're figuring out financially how to cut back to make this a little bit easier on us. And little things, stupid things. Thankfully, we're pretty frugal as it is. Like we downsized to 1 car 5 years ago and we just made it work because it's cheaper to Uber somewhere if you really have to than actually have like a car payment and insurance. A lot of people don't do that math. But we've downsized and we've been able to do that. Now we're, canceling some subscriptions that maybe we don't use, and we're cutting things down a little bit to help out. So I think that's step 1 to help, because a lot of people can live off of what you make, but we just spend a lot more, right? Like you're going to Starbucks twice a week when you probably should make it at home, right? Yeah. So, little things like that, I think is step 1 right now. And then hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to really button this thing up and get her something that is going to be beneficial to her. So she's going to like it. That's step 1. Because I don't want her to work a job just to work a job. I'd rather her enjoy it and make this long term. And then be something that makes sense to where it's, she's able to work from home and also spend time with our kid, which she was able to do at her last job. So that's a big thing for us.
That's important.
For sure.
You had a couple of, many great nuggets in there. One about like going into the other room and saying something out loud first. It's funny. MIT Media Lab used to do this thing where they would give everyone a rubber ducky and they would put it on top of their computer screen. And they were told that before they go and ask their supervisor to help with something, that they should talk to the rubber ducky and basically explain like what they were having difficulty kind of figuring out. Because when we do that, like, we kind of hear it a bit more objectively. And so what you're doing is a natural extension of that. It's an absolutely fantastic leadership trait and family trait. So I really want to give you props for that. It's great.
Thanks for that. I like the ducky idea, and I don't have I don't have a lack of duckies in my house. I have a lot of duckies, so I could probably afford to put one somewhere else. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I wanted to get back to is, and this is now probably going to weigh on you even more, is this like, how do you turn it off, right? Like as an entrepreneur, and now you're like, okay, now we have one less salary at the moment. Like I should take this extra project. I should take this extra client. I should take this extra this. I should do 2 extra hours of biz dev. And the challenge is it's your business and you've got your family. So how are you going to, how are you thinking about it now? How have you done it in the past? How are you worried about it in the future? This amorphous boundary between the two as a little bit more stress piles on top.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. I definitely think about it differently now than I did 3 weeks ago. I was turning down jobs left and right because I wanted to spend more time with my kids. So I think now, at least for the foreseeable future, the next 90 days, I really got to do everything I can, because thankfully she's going to be home with the kid. I won't be able to spend as much time with my daughter, but again, these are the little sacrifices I think that each person has to make when we're stuck in these situations. So I'm going to just work my freaking ass off for the next 90 days, take every job I can, and just stack up some money. And then I'm confident within that 90 days, she's going to figure it out. And then we'll get back to normal of splitting shifts and me taking the morning shift and watching my kid, and be able to work in the afternoon, and then vice versa, her swapping shifts. So I think that's where I'm at now, where I don't mind doing that because I know it's going to give her a little bit more comfortability, right? Because if I'm going hard and I'm upstairs and I'm working, or I'm going to jobs, or I'm filming, or I'm doing podcasts, whatever I'm doing to make the most money we possibly can, now she's able to kind of get away from me a little bit and figure out what she wants to do, right? Like, how bad would it be if I'm over her shoulder when she's looking at LinkedIn? You know what I mean? That she's not going to be able to focus 100% fully, right? So I think giving her that space to kind of do her own thing, find her own journey, but then also allowing me to kind of disconnect and get focused on work and go hard. So I think that's where we're at now.
Makes a lot of sense.
Even though I don't want to do it, by the way, let me make that clear. It's very, it's like I work so hard to not do that, but I think that's the give and take and the push and pull that you need in a good marriage.
For sure. And again, it's good in plan, right? And then you're going to have these moments when it's like, I just want to see my daughter, right? And I'm sure you'll figure that out. But yeah, I definitely have these like moments when I don't have anything urgent to do, that the work that I have to do is to build the long-term success of the business. And then I got these kids right here. And it's like, I gotta go play with them, right? And I'm hard on myself on that, and I just wonder, like, how do you tame that sort of voice in your head in both directions?
Yeah, well, it's hard. Like even just this morning, I had 2 calls before this, and then, I had to do a bunch of stuff for my apparel brand that is a lot of work. And, I'm downstairs, thankfully. And, my daughter's playing with mag tiles and dinosaurs and Barbies, and she's going back and forth. And every now and again, she'll say, "Hey, Dad, can you play with me?"
Yeah.
And before I used to say 10 minutes, sweetie, and I'll play with you. But now I don't do that. Now I just play. Because I can always work past 5 p.m. I can work at 9 p.m. when she goes down. I can work on the weekends and not go to the zoo. I'd rather do it during her nap time than say no to her because, or even delay it. There's one thing that I heard one day that gives me chills still, even when I say it, is, one day your kid's not going to ask you to play with them.
Yeah.
So that hurts. If you say, "Hey, sweetie, 10 more minutes and I'll play with you." Yep. What if they don't ask for you to play with them after that? That's heartbreaking. So, it's all about A, listening to what they really want, but B, just kind of giving in and realizing that nothing is important. That email can wait. That phone call, you can call them back. And if you lose money because of it, I don't think you'll regret it. I don't foresee you in 10 years saying, "Ooh, I should have took that extra $1,000 or I should have took that phone." Like what, you can make money anytime, but your kid's not going to be 2 years old again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the little man that's on my shoulder saying, "Hey bro, you're good. Go ahead. You're fine. You'll work later. It's all good. Go play with your kid."
Yeah. I love it. Talk to me a little bit. You brought up like the emotion versus the logic, right? And, what I have discovered through all these interviews and a lot of research is most of us as men, as dads, really we only learn how to regulate our emotions when we become parents, right? Because it really touches our triggers. It really puts us in a very different emotional situation. What has this experience been like for you, particularly with your daughter?
You nailed it. I think with a girl dad, there's a little bit more of a challenge because I had a buddy of mine who's a boy dad, and we were just talking about this on my podcast yesterday, where like he didn't really have to change. You know what I mean? He's the kid's a little him. Like the kid's into Spider-Man, the kid's into video games and skateboarding, just like he. So he literally hasn't changed a beat. He still plays video games and he still has Spider-Man figurines. Like the dad gave the Spider-Man figurine that he had as a kid to his kid.
Mm-hmm.
No change. You're not doing anything different. But me, at least speaking from experience as a girl dad, I had to change everything. Not only did I have to like be more patient, compassionate, and soften up a little bit, but like I've never played with a Barbie. I don't know how to like not take these Barbies and fight each other. Like that's how I would play. So I've changed everything. And, going back to your question of like regulating, that kind of leads into it, which is like, I realize how shitty I am at self-regulating. I realize how angry I can get. I realize that I'm not good at being patient or empathetic. I thought I was, but when you have a girl specifically, I can't speak, having a boy, but what I've learned is like, you really have to be zen, like just this morning, because she didn't sleep very good last night. Just this morning, she just started crying over a little bit of water that she spilled in her oatmeal.
Yeah.
And I could have easily back then, a year ago, I literally said, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. Just put it aside. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, hey, it's okay. You're good. Things happen sometimes. Are you okay? And she goes, yeah. I go, do you need a hug? She goes, yes. And I just gave her a hug.
Or they need you to make the oatmeal all over again from scratch because it was slightly off from what they expected, right?
That's the worst case scenario and more common. Thankfully, she was exhausted because she didn't sleep. So I just think she needed a little hug. But yeah, normally you would have to remake everything, or you ruin the banana because you peeled it and they, there's 1,000 things. But this morning, it was like one of those things where a year ago, I would never do that. A year ago, I would be like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. And I would say it from the dining room table. But I walked over to her, I kneeled down, I looked her in the eye, and she needed me for a second. And again, that's me, remember, on my laptop in the kitchen. I could have just sat there like an idiot, finish an email, say, hey, sweetie, you're okay. Just eat it anyway. You're fine. And like be in the zone of working. But instead, I got my stupid ass up. I walked over to my daughter, and for 5 seconds, I was there and it made a huge difference. She brushed it off her shoulders. She took the spoon, mixed in the water into the oatmeal, and ate it. No big deal. But she just needed that little reassurance that she was okay. So I think those little things are teaching me. I'm learning shit every day about that. But those little things are very important as she continues to, learn how to be a human. I mean, she's only been here for 2 years. She didn't exist 2 years ago. People don't understand that. Like she's brand new to everything. So you have to be a little compassionate. So I think that's one thing that I always think in the back of my head of like, hey man, I've been on this earth for 40 years and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So she definitely doesn't know what she's doing. She's only 2. So I always kind of weigh that in the back of my head.
And when you do get dysregulated, because you were saying you're learning and you're getting better, but when you are getting dysregulated, what are you discovering about how to sort of reconnect properly with your emotions? Or as you gave that example with your wife, like I go into the other room and I say it out loud first. Like, what are you doing on the dysregulation side?
With the kid, what I found what's really great about just being a parent in general is if you can do everything in front of them, I think they learn more versus like with the wife, I would go in the other room, right? Because you don't want to say anything too loud around the wife because it could piss her off. But with a kid, I think it's important if you are trying to self-regulate or you deal with your emotions in front of them and you have them do it with it. So what we do is we do just a breathing exercise. So if I'm upset or if she's upset, either way, let's say I'm upset and I need to like self-regulate myself. I go, all right, sweetie, hey, we're getting a little upset. Daddy and you are getting a little upset. Let's take a deep breath. Okay, can you do one more? Okay. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm with you. I'm right here with you. Anything you need, we're going to get through this together. Do you need some space? Yeah. Okay. And then sometimes I'll walk away because sometimes they don't want to be around it. And now she's thankfully smart enough to understand that. A year ago she wasn't, but being 2.5, she kind of gets if she wants space or if, she needs a hug, whatever. So it's all now just asking them, but also just doing those exercises with them and let them know, hey, it's okay. Sometimes it's as simple as not even that. Sometimes it's like, hey, sweetie, let's go look outside for a second. And we'll go outside. We're in Florida, so it's always beautiful. So we'll go outside, we'll look at the birds, the trees, and just kind of like making her forget about whatever she's pissed off about or whatever I'm pissed off about, right? So sometimes it's a little bit of that, just walking them over. And now I'm starting to understand, we've been doing that for so long, ever since she could walk, that sometimes when she gets upset, we say, hey, sweetie, do you need some time? And she's like, yeah. And she'll go walk at the patio door and she'll stare out the window and look at birds and trees until she calmed down. So But again, we've done that for a year and a half. So I always say kids never listen to what you say, but they're always going to do what you do.
Yeah.
So if you could just do what you need to do as from day one, most likely they're going to pick up these same habits. So that's why you always got to make sure you're on your fucking game. And that is the challenging part about being a parent, right? Is like, you're never going to be on your game. The bar that you set is going to be way too high. You're never going to reach it. But if you could just be a little bit of a better human, because that's one thing I realized is like, you don't understand how crappy of a person you probably were. And you think you have flaws. Yeah, sure. But a kid's going to humble you. You're going to know your flaws really quick. And you're going to know your flaws in your marriage because you're going to probably scream and yell at your partner more than you did before kids. But that's only because you're both kind of like overstimulated and you don't know how to regulate and you've never been challenged and tested like this. Like, being a linebacker doesn't test you as much as what you're going to go through, right? This gauntlet of parenting. So
That's
I think
a fantastic quote. Yes.
so you feel free to clip that. But I think the level of like, oh man, the level of stress that you're going to feel every single moment of every single day is going to test you to the point where you don't understand how to self-regulate. You don't understand how to be calm anymore. Like, so I think it's all going to make us a better human, because if you could just continue to work on yourself and do it in front of your kid, because remember, they're learning this stuff too. They're learning how to self-regulate. They're learning about their emotions. They're learning how to get angry and sad and happy. And you just have to do everything with them. And, that's just one thing that I continue to work on every single day. And it is a challenge for sure, but it's exciting because you're kind of like reinventing yourself,
Yeah. It's funny and very humbling, right? That like you're learning how to self-regulate next to a 2-year-old, right? And that's what most of us as dads and men are doing. Did you have an experience where you saw your daughter mirroring some of your behavior and it like sort of stopped you in your tracks? Like, whoa, this is not the behavior I want to be sharing.
Yeah, a little bit. Some were good, but there's a couple bad traits. Like I've noticed we have a dog. He's a little corgi, and I noticed that sometimes I snap at him a little too much. And I don't know if anybody could relate. If like, do you have a dog, Jeff, and kids?
No, but I'm kind of that way when I get bad like service at the if something really shitty goes down at a restaurant or something. Yeah.
So, but I kind of I've gotten better at it now. But when she was like not sleeping and we had to sleep train her, and we were both going on like 3 hours of sleep, and me and my wife were snapping at each other, and sometimes when I'll walk my dog with her, it's a lot, right? I got my coffee, I'm pushing the stroller with my kid in it. The kid's like, asking me questions. And then I got my dog that's yanking me because he sees, a squirrel, whatever. And I've noticed when she started doing this, when we would just be in the house or we're out back in the backyard playing around, and she'll go, Oliver, enough. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I was like, do I say that a lot? And then I asked my wife, and I was like, have you noticed this? She's like, yeah, I have. I go, okay, well, I need to calm down. Because again, that even though it seems so trivial, but my brain automatically just fast forwards to like the next 11 years where she's like in a playground and she sees a kid and she pushes a kid and says that. Like, I'm like, ah. And it's only because I flipped out of my dog like 11 years ago. So I think that is just it's checking me. Little things like that, where I'm seeing little characteristics and traits, sometimes good and sometimes bad. But if there are any bad ones, it allows me to be like, oh, it's either me or my wife. Someone's making that kid say that or do that. So we just need to get a little bit better. And again, continue to work on something. I mean, for the first time, she said fuck the other day. And, that was hilarious. But any parent knows you don't react to it. And she hasn't said it since, because, now we're aware. We're like, oh, we say that word a little bit too much. So we need to calm down.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That happens to everyone. I love it. I really appreciate you sharing that example. And I definitely have, again, similar examples, just like when I get, my family, we live in Spain. So
oh, wow.
When we deal with the bureaucracy here, like it makes me want to pull my hair out sometimes. And then I realize the kids are around, and like, it's creating a certain tone that
Mm.
I don't want them to share or believe or any of these things. So it's really humbling when they mirror the shit that you don't want them to mirror, right? It's like, oh, something I need to work on. Yeah, thanks for shining a light on that one too. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
that's fun.
appreciate you sharing it. You know,
Yeah.
you said something else that I noted down, like your friend who is a boy dad. That's definitely not true in my experience. So I have two boys, and like the oldest, much more heady, much more like into like intellectual stuff. My younger son, like super sporty, like wants to wrestle all hours of the day. And like
That's
one of the
cool.
challenges I've talked about on this podcast is this idea of, it's there's sort of two types of ways that we connect with our kids. And one is if they connect with us through what is of interest to us, right? Which is an easier way to connect. But the next is, how do we connect with them on the stuff that they find interesting that we want to like shoot ourselves in the head rather than actually do? So my oldest loves this toy called Beyblades, which are these spinning tops and there's like a show on either Netflix or Prime with it too. And to me, it's the most boring thing on the planet. And to him, it's the absolute coolest thing. And whenever he's playing, I just like go into the other room and like, it's my time to do some chore that I need to take care of in the house. And I was having this conversation with another dad, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and get down on his level and do this and not set expectations real high. I was like, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. Right. And for 10 minutes, like I'm going to connect with him on that. And like I did it. And it was powerful for me because it still was not the most enjoyable thing, but like he was excited that I was like playing this game that he loved, that was him. And in many respects, that's you all the time, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with two kids, it's a bit more selective. But it's a really important like thing for us to notice as dads, that there's all sorts of types of play and connection, and some of them come easier to us and some of them don't. And appreciating and approaching them in different ways is important, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I think whether it's an early age or when you're in your teen, or whether it's an early age or when they're in their teens, sometimes I think as parents, we want them to do the same things that we did. I know my dad was like that, and he encouraged me to, do the same things that he did, not for lack of anything else, except for that bonding aspect, I think, that we had, whether it be wrestling or football or whatever. But then I wasn't good at like football, for example, but I know he was, and he never said it, but maybe there was a level of disappointment in that. And I think that's like a bar that you got to lower, because I think, to your point, and again, what I'm saying as a girl dad is, I kind of like it better that I don't know what they're liking, or I like it better that they don't know what they're going to do, or they don't know what their hobbies are yet, or I want their hobbies, and I want things that they like and love and enjoy. I want them to be different than I like. Like I don't want them to do the same things that I did. Maybe if they want to, cool, but I think it's more exciting for both of us if it's something new and challenging. Because imagine, going back to like my buddy in the Spider-Man example, like that dad isn't getting challenged.
Correct.
The kid's not getting challenged because it's just a Spider-Man toy passing off to a kid. Like, how great is it? Maybe my kid playing with Barbies, that's kind of a challenge, but now maybe she's going to be into girly stuff. And then maybe I'm going to have to learn about that. Maybe I'm going to have to get a little bit better at braiding the hair. That's a challenge for me. And from a cognitive standpoint, just getting like really meta with you, is like the more we get challenged, the smarter we get, quite literally. Like there's been studies saying that IQs get raised and cognitively you just perform better if you learn something new, even if it's something very minuscule. So to me, I'm always looking for things to challenge me. And I think that's the cool part about being a dad, is if you could find things that you don't know about and you can relearn things or learn something new from your kid, man, I just think there's so much power to that.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I also think what you said is really powerful in the sense that you want your child to develop into their own self, right? Not into a mini you.
Right.
And it sounds like what you were saying is that by her being a girl, that's almost a little bit easier because like in many aspects of who you are as a guy, like
Right.
she's not going to follow those as explicitly.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think a lot of us get like seduced by our child mimicking our interests. And I've noticed like I love to cook as a way to relax. And my oldest used to love to come be by my side and do it. And now like it's not his thing anymore. But now my youngest is come by my side to do it. And there was one point in my head, I was like, oh, like maybe my son's gonna be a chef or or I don't know what, but like he's gonna be really into food. And then I realized he's just moved on and he was just into being with me. Like he just wanted to spend time with me. And that's
how beautiful is
thing.
that?
Yeah,
that's
a wonderful
amazing.
thing. Well, absolutely. And
we have to live in these little moments instead of fantasizing what their life is going to be like. I think that's the thing, because again, it's all about raising the bars. When we set that bar so high where it's like, oh, he is going to be a chef, or oh, he's going to be a podcaster like me, or then next thing you know, they're 11 and they change up their hobby and now you're disappointed in them.
Yeah.
That's so silly. That's so silly.
Yeah.
You have to lower the bar and just let them figure this out. Just like, it's so funny too, because I'm saying this as I'm literally talking to you. And I'm like, my dad said the same shit to me. It's like it's the whole thing of your parents are like, hey, don't do drugs. And then you end up doing drugs. And then now you're saying it to your kid, hey, don't do drugs. But it's like you're doing the same thing. They're going to do what they're going to do. And you just have to you have to zen it. You have to power through and just kind of accept that they're going to be on their own journey. And that's more beautiful than living your same journey.
Yeah. We started off this interview talking a little bit about like, how hard it is for many men to share around emotions. And in my research, one of the biggest dad gaps that I found is that dads aren't talking enough with other dads just about like the deep dad shit that's keeping us up at night. Right. And there are many folks that I've interviewed that are like, yeah, we have like a dad's night and we go out, but no one's talking about dad stuff. They're talking about sports or their money and finance, the provision stuff.
Yeah. Men stuff.
Yeah. How does that sort of resonate with you? Has it been easy for you to share at a deeper dad level with the men in your life? Or is that something that has to be much more intentional in kind of your life experience?
Yeah, definitely more intentional. Even the dads that I hang around with, there's only a few that are able to open up a little bit. And even me, I'm still kind of weary about everything, only because I feel like I'm the only one, even though I know I'm not. But it's one of those isolating things I think that men just have to get over, because you're never going to be able to tell your buddy the struggles you go through if they don't open up as well. Because you do it once and maybe someone could relate, or you open up to be like, hey man, this is what I'm dealing with. He's like, whatever, bro. Like, it's all good, man. Fucking drink your beer. Let's talk about the Dolphins. It's like, ugh, okay.
Only
so
in
in Florida, yeah. Because no one else would talk about the Miami Dolphins.
No
one cares. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I just think we all have to get on the same page, because once we do, things get a lot better. The dads that I have been able to connect with, again, I bring up a podcast I did yesterday because it was just such a cool interaction that we had. Me and a buddy of mine, where we like really opened up. Like, he struggled with suicide at a young age, and he had a boy at the age of 19, and he grew up without a father. So we like really got deep and involved into this, but he never was able to talk about that just a couple years ago. Through therapy and through like connecting with like-minded dads, he was able to kind of open up. But man, just the value and the beauty of his story and his struggle, it'll motivate you. And I think that's what is on the other side of the fence about men opening up, is because we are very similar in a lot of different aspects. And it's not the sports teams that we watch, or, the money in the bank, or the chicks that we like. It's deeper. It's deeper than that. It's in our DNA to be vulnerable. And I think we have to open up and we have to accept it.
Totally. Very well said. I always love to end our podcast because fatherhood is so messy, and you have a perfect aged young child. Can you tell me like the sort of messiest, bodily excretion story that comes to mind over the first 2 years of her life?
Man, I mean, there was one kind of gnarly one where I think she might have been like 8 months or something like that. She was pretty young. And we were at this store called Once Upon a Child. It's like a secondhand thrift store and for kids. And me and my wife go in there and we walk in, everything's fine. We're having a blast and I'm walking around, I'm carrying my kid. And then next thing you know, I do the check and I look at my wife and I'm like, you smell that? She's like, yeah. Like, you got it? And I was like, yeah, I'll get it. So we go out to the trunk and, it's Florida. So it's brutally hot. And I'm already kind of like going crazy because I've been holding her for 20 minutes. So I'm sweating a storm. I go in the back and I open up the trunk and it's a blowout.
Oh, yeah.
Which normally I wouldn't care about. But A, this was my first blowout I had to deal with. Like blowout, like up the back blowout.
Oh, yeah.
But then B, there was no clothes in the trunk. We were so sleep deprived that I guess we didn't pack an emergency backup bag. Plenty of diapers, which was fine. And a few wipes, just enough to where I used everything. But it was like one of those 10 wipe situations where
yes,
it was pretty bad. And what was even worse about it is I didn't have like a Ziploc bag or a grocery bag to put the wipes in. So I ended up doing the wipes, the diaper, all that, trying to roll it up and do the move that you do where you roll it and then fold it over with the 2 Velcro sides. And you're like, yeah, it fits perfectly. But there was so much that it didn't. It was like TMI, but it was like oozing out.
Oh, yeah.
So I literally
I'm physically smelling this right now, by the way.
It was so bad. So I physically had to take it. And meanwhile, she's laughing. She's having a great time. But I take it and I put it underneath the car because I'm not going to deal with that right now. Yeah. And we didn't have any clothes. The only thing I had was like a wife beater that was old. That was mine in the back seat. So I grabbed that. I wrap her up in it. And she had the same shirt on, which was fine. But the bottom, she was wrapped up in a diaper and a wife beater. And I go into this kid store, Once Upon a Child. Thankfully, it's a kid store, so they have kids. Yeah. And I walk in and I've been gone 30 minutes. And my wife looks at me like, are you okay? And I go, I just hold up our daughter wrapped up in a wife beater. She's like, hold on. So she went down one of the aisles, grabbed it, shorts that fit her. And then we bought that right away and put her on. But that was like a true test of, listen, if the wife says pack a diaper bag, just do it, dude. Because if you do not have the supplies needed, you never know what's going to go down. So it's learning experience.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That's a perfect story to end on. Really, really appreciate you sharing everything. Really want to wish you and your wife in particular good luck with her job search.
Thank you.
And please, let's stay connected.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I appreciate everything you're doing. And thank you for having me on. It's been a blast.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Ambitious Dads Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and want more insights on balancing ambition and fatherhood, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upcoming episode. Check out the links in the description for our newsletter and more resources to help you live intentionally as a dad. See you in the next episode.